Okay, so just to let you know, I'm using some free software here. This is called OBS. It's quite a good bit of kit and software, and it allows me to record anything on my screen, but you need something like DaVinci Resolve, which we're going to look at as well, to stitch that all together. So you might find that's quite useful for some of the things that you're doing. You might not, but it's just to let you know. Okay, so I'm going to switch into Inventor. And what I've created is I've already created a few models. I don't need to tell you how to do that. I'm sure you know. So the first thing I've done is I've just created and extruded a circle here. I've put a hole in the middle and I've just put this line in so that we've got something to look at as it rotates. Make life a little bit easier. I've coloured it gold because why not? It just looks okay. Foil gold. On this one I've done it in flake satin, but it's just a square with an extruded rod in the centre. And the rod diameter here doesn't even match this whole diameter here. That doesn't actually matter for what we're doing in this particular one. So the first thing to note is I'm going to now need to make an assembly. So the assembly order is actually quite important. If I put part 1 in first, then part 2 will rotate. If I put part 2 in first, then part 1 will rotate. So the one that is fixed is the one that's grounded, and I'm just going to ground that anyway because of what we're doing. So into the next bit, I'm going to bring in part 1, and the idea is to make this part rotate around that axis. So we need a couple of constraints, a couple of basic ones. I'm actually going to constrain that there. I'm going to constrain that there. Apply. I'm going to bring this out a little bit, not much, just so it isn't against sticking through the board, but it'll rotate that anyway. And the second constraint, and this is the important one, is the angular constraint. Now, I need an angular constraint against a round object, so I need to put in a work plane, and it takes that as the primary constraint. I click on this one, so I only need 2 parts, not 3, and we're rotating 2 things at the same time. And I'm just going to click on this here, and it automatically, for some reason, turns it 90 degrees. So I'm just going to put in minus 90 to bring it back to where I had it. Okay, so that's pretty simple. Angle, always on the first option, directed angle. It only gives us 2. We need to run off the work plane, and then we go to an edge that is against that work plane. I could have done it against this top edge. I can't do it against this face. I'm going to hit apply there. So that should now allow that part to rotate. We can drive that within this if we want to. I could hit drive and I could put that up, and at the moment it's minus 90, and I can just test that it works. And it does, but I don't actually need to drive it. But using the drive is a good way of testing. I'm actually going to take that to, let's say, 270 degrees. That's 2700. So if I hit play, you can see it will actually rotate all the way around. Okay, good way of checking what's doing, but not needed. So I'm just going to hit cancel. We've actually got that constraint in place and we don't need it at all. Okay, so the next thing I tend to do is I'll go up to tools and we'll go to application settings, and I tend to bring up the colors one. We can use a background image if you want to, be my guest. I've just put in the light blue framework on the back. What I tend to find as well is one color is better rather than a graded color. I don't know what it is about the graded color, but you tend to lose definition in certain places and then bring it back as it moves, so it drives me insane. So I'm just going to leave it at that. There's a few other things I can do. I can go into view and I can set all this up. I can go for perspective, but actually in this instance that doesn't look right to me. It does when I do the whole crane, so I've actually got it in perspective view. We can put in a ground plane if we want to. In this particular case, I'm not going to. You can put in shadows. Yeah, not in this instance, it doesn't look right because we're filling in that. And we can put in reflections, which I quite like, but it's only a ground plane reflection. In this instance, I'm going to leave it off, and we're just going to leave the reflections on the surface, which is why I've picked these 2 particular materials. All worth having a play with, all worth doing, and then we can go for realistic visual style. We can go for shaded. You can go for whatever makes the thing look the best, as I'm sure you know these settings anyway. If we pop then into environments and open Inventor Studio, and if you're noticing that this is pretty high resolution and it's moving quick, I have my new laptop. So the first thing I need to do is enable the animation timeline. Without this, I can't do anything. And you can do a couple of things here. On the first tab, I can actually set up these velocities if you want, so that it accelerates and decelerates as it starts and finishes. I'm just going to leave it as it is on this particular one, and I'm going to actually set this to 6 seconds. Okay, that will create a 6-second video as opposed to a 30-second video, and I'm only going to do 6 seconds for this one. On here then is absolutely everything that will pop up and populate, and we're going to go through cameras and different parts and lots of components. You can put it all together and stitch it all up in a little bit, but we'll just do the basic for now. So the basic simple one on this is just driving constraints. We've got components we can animate, and that's a forwards, backwards, left, right, up, down. That one's fairly straightforward, but I will show you it. We can fade things in and out, and then we can actually drive a constraint. Well, on this one, I'm going to drive that angular constraint. So I need to select the angular constraint from the side list. And at the moment it starts at -90. We just did that, and I want it to do a full revolution, so I'm going to put that to 270. Nope, not 2700, 270. Forever doing that. Then I'm going to specify how long that takes to do, and I'm going to set it to 6 seconds, and I'm going to hit OK. So if I now test fire this, you'll notice the red mark has gone to the end, so I need to reset it. I can actually hit play, and that will simply rotate. Okay, so that's it. I can play it backwards as well, see what it looks like in reverse, which is great. And at the moment, that doesn't look particularly brilliant. So what we're going to do is we're going to output that by rendering the animation. I'm not going to do it because I've already done it. So on my particular case, I'm leaving those settings there. You might want to change it to HD, etc. Totally your choice. So the camera at the moment, we're going to leave current view because I haven't set up any cameras. We're going to do that in a minute and go through how to do that. So output here, I set that, I have to, even though I've set the video to 6 seconds, I still have to do it again in this one. And that's important, otherwise you get a lot of junk that takes hours to render and you just have to cut it off. So you only want to do the minimum time. Now the good bit with this is we can, in later ones, if you want to fade things in and out, they all start off being there. So you have to fade them away at the very beginning, which you can do instantaneously. But what it means is with this, we can start rendering from, let's say, half a second. So you've got half a second to remove all the things you want that you're going to bring back in later. That's quite useful, and we're going to do it on the second video. Then we go to renderer. Total render time, 1 minute. Render by iteration. I found that 32 iterations is enough. I do know that some people would suggest 128 to 256, but trust me, even with my new supercomputer, that is going to take hours. This 6-second video that I've just created there takes 32 minutes with 32 iterations to actually do at this resolution. At any higher resolution, it takes longer. Lower resolution, it's obviously quicker. But whichever way we look at it, that's pretty sort of it's pretty long time. So if we're going to render 30 seconds, 5 times that, and we're not using that 5 times, that's a bit of a pain in the ass. So total render time I don't do. I just do render by iterations. You hit the render button, it asks you where you want to do it. Whatever you do, don't save it as a WMV because DaVinci Resolute and quite a lot of others won't actually do it. Save it as an AVI file, and away you go. So in this instance, I'm going to close all that down, and I'm just going to show you what that actually produces on this. So documents, and I think it's forget that, assembly 1, and what we've actually produced as a video is this. So it will just go round and round and round and round and round. Okay, so that's our first video completed, and I will show you a few other bits in the next one. Okay, so all I've done on this one is I've done 3 simple parts. The first one is a nice easy wheel. It's not particularly fancy. It's not like the ones I've done previously. It's just got a flat back to it, etc. But from the front end, it looks like a wheel. I've also done a screw to fit it together, machine screw type thing. I've done a little bit of a screwdriver. And finally, I've just done a blank block. Now I've got to do an assembly, and remember the order is important. Whatever goes in first is the thing that won't move, and everything else will drive against it. So let's start an assembly. The first thing I'm going to put in place is actually that square block. Now, I'm just using that as a drive plane for my wheels and everything else. So let's next put in the wheel. And all I'm going to do is simply constrain that to there. Okay, I'm going to apply it, and I can't be bothered with anything more than simply putting it somewhere near the middle. Doesn't matter because the back one's going to disappear. Okay, next part in my assembly then is going to be my screw, which is part 4. And I'm going to fully constrain that as if I'm doing an assembly. And then I'm going to bring it in line. So basically we've got a wheel assembled there. And the last thing I'm going to bring in is my screwdriver. And again, I'm just going to constrain. Whoop, can't do it. I'm just going to constrain that to there. Now, where I've got a problem with this screwdriver is I can't really rotate it. So I'm going to have to do something else, and I'm just going to explain that right now. So I can line that up, but there's no rotational constraint. I've got a bit of a problem with it. So I'm going to have to go back into part 5. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to start a 2D sketch right in the center there. And I'm going to just give myself a little bit of a circle. And you'll notice this on the design that I did previously. So I'm going to extrude that, and I'm going to extrude it about, I don't know, I can't remember how long everything is now. So let's go that way. Well, it's way less than 100 millimeters, so I'm going to try just 50 and see what happens. Okay, so no, don't like that still. Let's go for 45. And I'm actually going to add it rather than subtract it. Okay, so it just looks like a little T-bar coming through. That just makes my life a lot easier. We're just going to put a fillet on the end of it because I don't like the way it looks. There we go. Okay, so I'm just going to save that, and I'll pop back to my assembly, and what I've actually got now is that centerpiece there. So I'm going to constrain that center to these centers. No, it's not letting me do it for some reason. There we go. What have I done wrong? Tell you what, let's put that back in afresh. So part 5, constrain that to Y, and it's disappeared all the way over there. Well, we can bring it out. Hello, that was supposed to be constrained. Oh, I've moved it sideways, so we'll just play with it a little bit. I could go back there. And then I'm going to constrain this end here to this end here. Not going to let me do that, is it? No. Cancel. So let's try constraining the top to the top. Why aren't you letting me do that? It's interesting. Okay, we'll do it the other way. We've got a constraint. Let's just put it where we want it. Okay, so that's fine. It's all done, and that's an assembly. Okay, so all I've got here is my T-bar for taking out the nut and bolt. It's not drawn to proportion and everything, I know. A wheel and a block. Now I've got to do a couple of other things now. So part 5 needs to be driven. So angular constraint, and we're going to go from origin. I'm going to have that origin, and I'm going to drive it against that block. The second one I'm going to do is I'm going to do exactly the same with the nut and bolt. So I'm going to put in an XY origin there, and I'm going to drive that XY origin against this block again. Okay, and the last one then is part 3. So again, I've got my XY origin, and I'm going to constrain that against that. Apply. Okay. The last step then is part 6, the first one I put in. I'm actually going to get rid of its visibility. So now what I've got is I've got the wheel, etc. there. I'm going to do the same as I did before. I'm going to just jump into my environment, Inventor Studio, and pull up my animation timeline. I'll have to activate it. Right, so there's a couple of ways I'm going to do things now. Firstly, I'm going to set this video to 6 seconds. Oop, not 60, 6. Okay, and I have this. So I can do a couple of things. I'm going to start to move stuff out and rotate it at the same time. Now, I want that to happen over the first 2 seconds. So I'm going to move my slider to 2 seconds, and that will move my red slider there. So that I don't need to do. I can manually set it, but now everything I'm going to do is going to happen in 2 seconds if I do that. But before I do anything else, I need that to disappear because I want it to come in. So I'm going to go to fade, and I'm going to start at 100% and end at 0. Okay. Duration I'm going to specify here. I'm going to get rid of the 2-second duration, which automatically comes up because of where I set that. And I'm going to put, I'm actually going to put instantaneous instead. So now if I play, it's just not there. I want that to come in a little bit later. So I'm going to open my animation timeline, and this is my instantaneous. I'm going to right click that and mirror it. And I'm going to bring it to about 0.5 seconds, and I'm going to edit it because I want it to start at 0.5. I want it to specify this time, and I want it to come in over half a second. So I'm going to say 1. Okay, so if I now look at that running, I can do this. So it basically makes it appear. Nice and simple. Okay, so what I also want it to do then is move and rotate. So I'm going to do the rotate first. So I'm going to animate the constraint, and it's part 5. So it's that angular constraint there. And I'm just going to start at 0 degrees and I'm going to finish at 360. Okay. I'm going to specify the duration to go start at 0.5, and I'm going to end at 2.5. Okay. So again, just a quick check that that's all working. Okay. Now I've got a problem. I'm tightening it. I need to untighten it. So I need to go into here, and I need to look at that angular constraint there, and I need to edit it. So it said 360. If I just simply change it to minus 360, it will go the other way. So let's play that and find out. Okay. So now at the same time, I want that to come out. So I'm going to go components. I'm going to select my component here. Then I'm going to say position, and it gives me a UCS. If I click on the red bar, it rotates things a little bit out of order, so I have to click on the very end. And I'm going to bring that to just there. Okay, I'm going to click OK, and I'm going to take the duration of that from 0.5 seconds. So I need to specify, sorry, 0.5 seconds to 2.5 seconds. Okay, so let me just go back now and try that. And there we go. So just looking at that then, I want that to fade and disappear at the end of the 2.5 seconds. So I've got a fade in it already, but the fade's a little bit awkward. Yeah, I've brought it in. I want to mirror that and slide it to the end here. And I'm going to let it stop just before it goes out. So again, you can try that and see what happens. So now it will go. There we go. All right, nice and easy. The next part then is I just need to repeat that and be mindful of my timings and settings because I want this to rotate at the same time and come out with it. Okay, now coming out with it is a little bit more awkward. If I have a look at part 5, and I'm going to suppress part 6 because we're not actually doing anything with it. Then if I have a look at that, that's the animate constraints angle. This one is the linear, and it says it goes a distance of 4.375 inches, unfortunately, instead of actually millimeters. So we just got to be a little bit canny with that. So this time I'm going to do a component again, and I'm going to select this component here, UCS, and bring it out. Now, notice it's not moving. There's a reason it's not moving. So this is, and we've got to be careful, part 4. Okay, so part 4 is constrained, and it's constrained with this central, which is fine, but it's also constrained with this. So I need, before I do anything to this, I need to suppress that constraint. Suppress. And now that will allow it to move back out. So I can try that again now. So select my component. I need the UCS position, and now it moves out. If I leave the things suppressed, it continues to do it. So that's now so 3.375? Oh yeah, 375. So I need to match the distance. I'm going to make it smooth, and now I need to match my timings as well. And the timing was from 0.5 to 2.5. Okay, now there's a problem here because that is a mismatch. But does that matter? Well, you could say it does. So I'm going to go back in, and on part 4 I'm going to do a little bit of an edit, and I'm going to edit the distance here. Perhaps I was right, perhaps it was 4 point, there we go. So it was 4.375. All right, and that'll stay in there. I also want that to fade. So select the component there, and it starts at 100%. We're going to drop it to 0 because I want it to disappear. And we're going to specify that the duration is 2.5, but I'm actually not going to allow it to start until on the specify until 2 seconds. Okay, so now I want it to do it in line with the other one here, so I'm just going to simply move it to where I want it. Okay, so now if we do this, I hit play. Okay, so I've noticed a bit of a problem there. It's actually coming out before the other. So I'm going to just have a look here. Part 4 should be starting at 0.5. So now let's try that. Oops, let's get it to the start and try it. There we go, now they're moving together. And the last one I want to do just for the last 3 seconds is I just want this to roll away and disappear. So I'm going to now come back to my timeline and say, right, at 6 seconds is where I'm going to finish my video. I've got 3 seconds to do this. Do I really need 3 seconds? Probably not. So I want to just roll that away. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to do a component move. So this component, which position, we'll let it roll off screen, shall we? So we'll take it to there. Trouble is, this is again constrained. So this is part 3. So I've got to work out which constraint it is, and it's very often not the circular ones. It's usually the others. So I've got to knock that back off to be able to do it. So I'm going to get rid of that constraint. Okay, so components, this component, move. Okay, so it doesn't want to move still. All right, so what other ones have I got on there? Let's just try ticking that. Okay, so I might have to, got that angular constraint, I want to keep that. I think we might have to suppress this one as well. So I've basically suppressed every constraint. And this is where it can get a bit tricky playing with which constraints need suppressing, because you want to suppress the minimum, but at the same time, there we go. I'm going to get it to roll away there. You have to get them to suppress the minimum amount. You don't want everything going out of kilter, but at the same time, it's working out which are which. So I'm going to make that a smooth path, and it's not going to go from 0 to 2.7. It's going to go from got to hit specify first, 2.5 to, let's say, 4.5. So we've actually done all this in 4.5 seconds. I'm going to just jump back a little bit on my timeline just so it's where I want it to be. And I'm going to look at part 6 and make it visible. I don't need to, sorry, forget that. So I'm now going to go constrain. We've already set up the angle of constraint, it knows it's there. I'm going to start there, and again I'm going to do, let's say, 720 this time. Okay, and it'll probably rotate the wrong way, so I'm going to put minus 720. You watch, I'll have done it backwards. I'm going to specify the time to start at 2.5 seconds, and I'm going to finish it at 4.5 seconds. I'm going to hit OK, and that should now be our wonderful little video. Okay, this is where we always have the fun with the wheels. I don't know why it does that. You have to play with it, but it's brilliant. There we go. So that all comes out lovely, and then that does that. And that's all because that central constraint had to be relaxed. So I'll let you play with that and see if you can figure it out, because I'm forever getting confused with it. But there we are. Okay. But never mind, it's all a bit of fun. So just play. The constraints are the important bits, and it's getting it right. And clearly I haven't there, but you get the idea of the video anyway. That's brilliant. I like that. Right. So anyway, you could publish that nice and easy, and that's basically movements, fades, and constraints. Um, I'll do the next bit, which is going to be moving cameras, etc., in the next video. All right. Okay, so the last little bit is just going to be on cameras. So we'll go back to our original video where everything flobbles about a little bit. We like that. Um, and it's a little bit on the annoying side, but hey, we'll run with it for now. So cameras are quite simple. It looks complicated on the face of it because, well, I don't know why, but there's a few little bits. So all I've got to do for a camera, let's say before we start or while it's happening, I want to zoom in. If I zoom right out and put it in the middle of my screen, I'm going to hit create camera from view. Okay, so that's now created this thing called camera one, and I can look through camera one, which is going to be the same as this, or I can look through my current view for now. Okay, I'm going to animate camera by right clicking and going to animate camera. And what I need to do is I'm going to have a smooth path. That's a bit of a jerky path. I don't know why that's even in there. And I'm going to specify a time. That first lot happens within the first 2.5 seconds. So we'll do that. Okay. And then I'm going to go into definition. And I'm going to just link to view here, which cuts all the others off. And I'm just going to do this. Okay. And hit OK. So now we can watch our original video, and we can watch that from any view we like, and it looks like this. Okay, now I'm going to do something slightly different. I'm going to move to camera 1. Okay, and that is going to now use the settings we just used. So, or it should have used the settings we just used. It's done nothing. What am I doing? What have I done wrong? Let's have a look at that. So we should have an animation line here for the camera, and we haven't. It's not done it. That will explain it. Okay, so what did I do wrong there? I started here. I've animated camera. It's done nothing for some reason, so specify 2.5 seconds. We'll do it all again. We'll go to definition, and we'll go right in on top of it, and we'll go link to view to there. We'll hit OK, and we'll hit OK. So I'm just going to check in the timeline. I should have a camera now, which I have. Camera 1. Don't know why it didn't do it the first time. So let's just change to camera 1. We'll jump back and we'll see what happens. Okay, so I probably zoomed in a little bit too far. Okay, so for camera 1 zooming in a little bit too far, that's fine. I'm going to create a second camera. And what I'm going to do is let it play to 2.5 seconds, roughly. I'll pull it up on here. We'll make it 2.5 seconds. So that's where we are. So what do I want to do now to see some of the other effects? Well, from this, I can create camera from view again, which will be camera 2. And this time, I'm going to do something slightly different with it. I'm going to edit the camera 2, but I'm going to go on to this one, which is turntable. And by the way, you can have smooth and slow acceleration and whatever it is you want to do there. But this time I'm going to go turntable. I'm going to set it to the Y axis. And if you look here, it will actually show you which way round it goes. I'm going to say how many revolutions I want, and I'm only going to go for 0.5 revolutions. I'm going to do that, and I'm not going to do it from 0 to there. I'm going to do it from 3, sorry, not 3. I'm going to do it from 2.5 seconds to my final end, which is 4.5 seconds. That's the end of our actual video. Okay, I'm going to do that. Now, I've got a bit of a problem. I can't actually view that. If I hit play now, all that happens is nothing. If I jump back, you'll see on camera 2, that's fine. It does this and that, and then it'll disappear around. Okay, not really brilliant. Doesn't look good, and I can't see both cameras. So what I have to do to see both cameras is something slightly different. If I pull this down here, I can pull up Video Producer. And in Video Producer, I can then bring in camera 1, and then it always puts them in 2-second blocks, so you have to edit it. And that should have actually ended at 2.5 seconds. So, okay, I've made it the right size clip now. And then this one should have ended at 4.5 seconds. So again, if I edit that, it starts at 2.5, ends brilliant. That one's actually done it. Don't know why it does this, but now if I watch it through the video editor, it shows me both cameras. Okay, and you can play with all sorts of effects within the cameras. Cameras are nice and simple, so long as you remember to use the video editor and put in the timelines and reset them. Right, so that pretty much puts you good to go on everything. You've just got to play with constraints to get everything to work. Obviously, I failed. And you've just got to play with different settings on the cameras and things to get things to look right. Don't forget, though, if you don't like it, you can simply go up to here and either edit or delete it, or you could mirror it and go back the other way. Okay, so you can do pretty much anything you like with it. There's not a huge amount up here. I don't know what pos reps is. Animates components between selected positional representations over a specified. Yeah, but isn't that what we're doing with all the others? You can play with the lighting and effects. There's no active lights, but you can actually create lights wherever you want to. Um, so you can just do that with here and put the lights in place if you want to. Don't actually see much point to that with what we're doing. You can have different studio lighting styles. Photo booth is quite a good one. Grey Lab, grid. You can play with all of those things and you can change the exposures and everything on there. You can actually import some as well, and there's a few websites around that will allow you to do that. Animations then, basically, we've just got these. You can put a second animation in a third animation stream, a fourth if you want to, but you end up just putting them all together with a video producer anyway. This is just the production. So all of your parts are on there. Okay. So nice, simple way of doing it. It's just a bit time crunching to work all these little details out because people don't like to tell you for some reason. Okay, for our last recording, we're just going to have a quick look at DaVinci Resolute. And I'm just going to show you a few little options in this. The first thing is you need to, when you come in, you're usually on media. We don't worry about that. I go to cut. And then with this little tab up here, I can import a video. I'm going to import the test video, which was the video we had earlier. And I'm just going to drag it down onto the timeline. Now, you might remember this from a previous video. This is just our little rotational thing here. Okay, so that is actually both going in both directions. So what I've already done is I've taken one and I've flipped it back over to the other. So I'm actually going to remove that, get rid of it altogether, and I'm going to bring in the original blank that did that. Now, if I remember rightly, I've got to go to Documents and it's Assembly 1. Okay, so Assembly 1, the difference is this only goes in one direction, which is that one. Okay, and all I've done in order to create the second one is I've brought in that same video and put it after it. But if I go to Edit, I can right click on that video and I can go up here to change clip speed. Now, you can change the speed of the clip, but don't do it. It makes it awful. I did all sorts of experiments trying to render in 1 second and then spread the time out. And even with the interpolation on, it doesn't look very good. But if I put reverse and hit change, now what you'll see if I go back to the very beginning is this. Now that's really useful. For an assembly and disassembly video, I can now put them together. What we can't do is we can't do it with any sound. Okay, so that's fine. That's not a big issue. We can go from there. Now, there's a couple of ways to actually output this video, but the quickest one and the best one rather is to go to Deliver. So the Deliver tab here, and you have all this wonderful stuff down the side. Okay, so all I'm going to do is I'm going to keep it as custom and automatic, etc. And I'm going to browse a location. I'm going to put it there, and it's going to be test 2. And I'm just going to save. Okay. Now, on this particular one, I've set it here to be a QuickTime video and H.264. I've set the resolution to high definition. I could have set it to ultra high definition, but most monitors aren't doing that yet. Okay, and that's pretty much everything set up there. All right, so now all I need to do is I need to send it to the render queue. Yeah, so I do that with this button here, add to the render queue. All right, and George demo timeline 1, and I hit render all, and it just takes a few seconds to go through it. Now, if I now go to my videos, Here, test 2, I can play that video, and this is what it looks like. Now, obviously, within DaVinci Resolute, I can do a few other things. I can edit the duration and timeline. I can clip and cut these particular things. And you'll see the finished result because I'm about to stitch all of the videos that I've done, which is 3 or 4 different videos, and send them to you in one go.